Good morning, good morning. 8:10 a.m., January 13th. Welcome to my channel. Now, yesterday, we opened up this freaking thing. Hold on. We opened up, right, and drove higher right off the bat. Now, I talked about it pre market that we were 100% net short in the overnight. I also mentioned we were over ultimate balance in both markets. I said this poor structure above us could get cleaned up kind of easily and that's what happened. Now, to support that, internals were very strong yesterday. The top, let's see here, top six sectors were all green. That is very hard for the market. It's not going to pull back that much. All right. It's not going to pull back that much. Now, I did have a nice long yesterday. Basically, what time was that about? A little after 12, I think. We finally pulled back and swept some liquidity, and that's where I got in long. And knowing that I'm using a little bit of the framework of ICT for execution, I've just been noticing now. If anybody knows ICT, I've traded like this anyway, but they have a thing called premium discount. So if you split that session in half, that's your 50% demarcation line. Above that's considered premium, where you want to short. Below it's discount, right? Well, there's times when, if you want to stay strict in that, I'm not going to get a lot of those pullbacks, right? Because they don't necessarily pull back past the midpoint of the session. But in times where internals are super strong, pretty much all pullbacks are buyable, okay? Especially when you have tech and semis leading the dance. So I had a little over 2R trade there. I might even could have bumped that up to two lots because the market wasn't moving high tempo, but that's okay. And again, everybody been talking about it. I'm in my combine or my eval still for Top Step. I am now down to like $400 to get funded. So yesterday, if that was my funded account or my personal account, when I entered that trade, I expected to hit the previous day's highs. However, because I'm trying to pass this, I got a little more aggressive with my stop. But so I got about 5.75 points off a 2.5 point risk. Hit the high day, and then I was going for the previous high day. That would have gave me almost 10 points on 2.5 point risk, which is amazing, right? If that was my personal, I would have kept it probably break even, and then I would have, once it pushed up, I would have put it to a different swing low. But since this is trying to get funded, I get a little more aggressive. So it would have hit that 10 point target. However, like I said, I'm just trying to get funded. So in a personal, I would have been let it play out because I knew most likely that was the draw on liquidity. We were going to eventually hit the previous day's highs. Okay, and we actually went higher than that. I break down that trade in my Discord. Okay, now what do we have going on now? We're getting the ADP numbers in about 15 seconds. So we might see a little change in the market maybe. Okay, that's the private numbers for employment. They're going to drop, and let's see if we have any large orders. Hit the tape here. Let's see. Boom, dropped. I don't hear anything. I don't see anything so far. Maybe that's a different ADP I'm thinking, but I know there were some ADP numbers that just came out. Anyway, we have CPI today. We have CPI at 8:30, folks. 8:30. So that's what we have today. 8:30, 10 a.m. We have housing sales. I believe they don't really tend to move the market much. So, but we have them. Okay, but we have them. So CPI is the name of the game. We have some Iran stuff going on. I saw 2,000 protesters were dead. So that's becoming a little hairy situation there. All right, there's always so much going on. Silver just continues to push higher. Those banks are getting short squeezed. Who short silver? That could rocket up if they close their positions. Um, I'm in silver. I've been trimming. I pretty much have no cost basis now. It's pretty much a free. I got all my capital back, so that's a good thing. So now let's get into this. All right, a little long-winded, a little long-winded. Welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and buying profile to find structure in the markets, along with supply and demand. Gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. Okay, that's where I come up with game plans for the day. I use Anchor VWAPs as well. Market internals is my bread and butter. I cannot say enough about my market internals. Notice when I talk about my trade, I talked about the internals first. That's always where I go first to what I'm going to do. Okay? That sets up because I have many setups based on those internals. Do I want to go long? Do I want to go short? Do I want to take a short scalp? Do I want to, whatever. Okay? Now, I also am using some smart money concepts in ICT to basically use a framework. Okay? It makes so much sense, right? But it's just a tool. You still have to know how to trade, right? That's just a tool, right? There's so many ways to trade, so many ways to skin a cat. Somebody could look at the moon and be like, oh, on a quarter moon, I short friggin' silver. And if you show me success, what can I say? I can't say nothing, right? So each person's trading is like a fingerprint. Anybody, you can give somebody the same tool. Let's say you give somebody let's say, I don't even like mud. What do they do that like in the movie Ghost? I know I'm friggin' old. But when you shape the pottery or whatever with your hands, everyone's going to shape something different, right? And that's trading. For myself, I find this ICT framework puts me in these little boxes, and I don't mind being put in boxes. I want to be restricted, right? So it refines this framework for me. It gives you like a model. It's not the end all be all, right? Like yesterday's trade wasn't me. I used some ICT concepts. However, my entry and all that would not be ICT, right? I didn't have a break of structure and longed in a fair value gap. I used the fair value gap, but I didn't typical entry. I basically was like, I've seen this movie before. I'm going to enter. And so that's discretion, that's experience. Okay? Now, if you want to join me every day, please do so. Subscribe, set that alert. I give you the market story, the market news, the economic calendar, leaders and laggards. Then I give you a bunch of technical analysis, followed by the NASDAQ and the ES futures long and short trade scenarios. Yesterday, if you want to check out my scenarios, you can see at the end I was saying I lean long. I lean long because he swept liquidity already. And that's exactly what happened. Didn't really have a setup. If I just longed at the open, obviously be successful. That you can't repeat that. Okay? It's all what the trading's about. Repeating something. At the end of the day, if probabilities are in your favor, you'll have an edge. Right? That's what trading is. And then have confidence that you've seen something over and over and over and over. That's it. Right? You just want to have the data that supports what you're doing. Right? So, it took me a little while to realize that even though I'm almost traded 7 years, I would say a strict process of trading like futures, day trading, I would say locked in 2 years maybe, a little over, because I was an options trader more for the majority of that. I would always futures trade, but really with no success, with really no process, really no, hey, when the market does this, I didn't have that structure. It was a lot of like break evens, a little green, a little red. But now for maybe 2 years or so, a little over 2 years, like I've been really honing in day trading processes. So that's when I say I've been trading 7 years, but I haven't really had a locked in process per se, and it's constantly evolving. Okay, that's a little about me. Now, if you want more in depth coverage with myself, all right, you're going to join my Discord. That's Confluence Trading. Go to the YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? There you'll get my intraday commentary. Okay, I was live yesterday. Okay, I had a couple of my community members in there with me. All right, so hopefully somebody joins there because I'm dropping golden nuggets constantly. I'm constantly saying, hey, this is typically what's happening. And even though I'm narrating, right? I mean, like uh, one of my good friends who's in there, like when I'll say something like the market wants this level, and I want to see this level get reacted to unless I'm going to do something, right? And what do you know? That level gets tapped. That's not even like rocket science. It's just the way the market works, right? And that's what you have to understand, how the market works. When I first started trading, I didn't know any of that. None of that. Nothing. No volume profile, no market profile. I was just trading green bars and red bars. That's all I was doing. And I thought I knew, I thought I was good because you made money, right? That's when you first start trading, you think you're good when you're green and bad when you're red. No process, no edge. I remember first having a couple mentors in the beginning, and they said, you need to find an edge. And I was like, this, how the heck do I find that? How do I find that? I don't even know where to look for that at all, right? And one short thing too about trading, which is like really interesting to me, because when you first start and you have success with green days, right? Remember, you don't know what you're doing. Green means good, bad means red, right? Bad means red. A day means you don't know what you're like. You stunk that day, right? That's how you feel with trading in the beginning, right? And then I'd have my mentors talk, and one of them, I remember we would go live every week, and my mentor and another head trader would be in live with us, and they'd be talking about the market, what he's looking at, what he's looking for, right? And I remember they were so patient, like so patient, having all these rules. And I specifically remember the one mentor going, "Oh, I don't long when the market's over its expected move for the week. It can keep going, and I'm not going to go long because it goes against statistics." And I was like, I don't get it. I just made money off that long. I don't understand that. Or, I'm not going short here because of and I'm short and I'm making money. And I'm like, I don't understand that. Well, that's how that dude is. I think at the time he made like 600 something thousand dollars a year in trading, right? And who am I to say to him, why are you not trading long? You know why? Because he know his tendencies. He knew stats. Overall, the probabilities were in his favor not to long, right? I didn't understand that back then. So that's why I say to you, I like to put myself in a box. I don't want to sit here and trade every candle that I see. Because at the end of the day, when you do that, you're going to lose, right? You're going to lose. So that's why I don't like to trade here. Boom. I'm just like talking to my community. Oh, I don't trade it when it's here. Don't get me wrong, I still break that every now and then because I'm human. I just try to not make it a habit. But generally, having these guidelines keeps you on the right track, right? Because I used to trade a lot. Now, you know, I would say 1 to 2 trades a day generally. And if I have a beautiful trade, I'm done usually. I'm pretty much done. I don't try to press my luck and keep trade. So that's just a little that from me. Let's get into the futures and let's see, because we have five. Like that's why I'm just gonna go over this real quickly because we have CPI coming out. Silver leading the pack. Crude's up because they Iran, how you want to say it. Ethereum is up 1%. Bitcoin's up 0.6. I'm just going to quickly go over these. Let's see. The ES is down 0.15. Russell's down 0.20. Nasdaq's down 0.24, almost a quarter of a percent. The Dow's down a quarter of a percent. All right. I'm just going to quickly go over these because these are going to probably change with CPI. AMD is getting love. Let's see. There's got to be a reason for that. Oh, they got an upgrade. So did the Intel. That's why they're up. All right. Google's up 0.71. Coinbase is up 0.67. All right. Who's lagging today? Broadcom, Microsoft, and Apple. Moving on to the top sector stocks. Let's see here. We got GE Vernova. I'm a proud owner of that. Up almost a percent. Chevron's up almost. And Exxon up with crude up. We have some big laggards here with Oracle down 1.26, Qualcomm down 1.75, and Visa down 1.81. Now, MasterCard reported earnings. Maybe they weren't good or something because that's in sympathy. Okay, let's see. Maybe that's the reason why. I can almost guarantee that's the reason why. All right, let's look at sectors. Sectors, we are at energy. No surprise there, but crude up and the Iran thing happening. All right, and the laggard is financials and technology. All right, these are going to change in about 3 minutes. That's why I briefly went over them. So let's go over to the economic calendar now. Let's see what's on tap for today. We have core inflation year over year, expecting 2.7, previous 2.6. So we're expecting to go up 0.1. Now the headline number, 2.7, we're expecting to be 2.7, the same as last time. We'll see. We will see in about a little bit of time. Okay. Now as far as the juice here, let's look what we have on the schedule for today. The juice, JP Morgan's earnings call, 8:30. Fed Muslim speaks at 10. Trump site tour Michigan, 12:30. Trump speaks at 2. So Trump speaks at 2. Okay. Let's see if there's any stock news here. We can, just before these numbers come out in 2 minutes. I know Delta Airlines shares dropped, revenue misses. Let's see here. I don't really see anything here right now. Let's go over to some news here. JP Morgan profits fall on one-time Apple Card deal charge. Latest Trump move on Fed may have hit a tripwire with a rally behind Powell. Delta bets on premium travel demand with upbeat outlook. Boeing 787 order. U.S. consumer prices likely snap back after being restrained by government shutdown distortions. Trump's Detroit trip to put manufacturing back in focus. Let's see here. U.S. stock index futures edge lower as investors wait on key inflation report from fresh clues on where interest rates go next. While J.P. Morgan Chase's fourth quarter results kicked off earnings seasons, the consumer price index expected to have an increase by 0.3 in December and 2.7 on an annual basis, matching November's gain. European shares paired gains after hitting a record high as investors digested a slew of corporate updates. Asian markets were mixed, with Japan's Nikkei surging to a record high as markets caught up with Wall Street's recent two-day rally following a public holiday, with Chinese stocks paused after hitting a I don't know if that's a word, decadal high in the previous session. All right. And oil, let's see here. Oil prices extended gains as heightened concerns surrounding Iran and potential supply disruptions overshadowed the prospect of increased crude supply from Venezuela. All right. Now let's see. I don't really see much of anything. Let's see. Diamond, Meta, Nvidia. The company's not recording. Okay. All right. Let's go to the economic calendar here. We only, you know what we'll do? We'll go to the hourlies first, the hourly chart, and then we'll check back just to see the initial reaction off of the. Here's our hourly charts. Let's just see the reaction. We got 10 seconds. And drop. What we got? Woo. Market's liking it off the bat. Okay. All right, so let's look at these numbers. Right now, market likes it. She likes it. Let's see here. Whoa, market. Let's go back to that chart. Look at that market. It is liking that. Okay. So let's look at the numbers. All right, core inflation year over year went down. They thought it was going to be up I'm sorry, it didn't go down. It stayed the same, but it was lower than expected. Okay, year over year headline inflation was in line with expectations. Market is really liking this. The market is really liking it. All time highs. All time highs. Well, there you go. Let's get rid of that supply zone. All time highs. I mean, these aren't crazy numbers. Core inflation year over year stayed the same, but it was just below expectation by point 0.1. I don't know how bullish that is, but and the headline was what we expected. So, because the preferred inflation gauge is core, so I mean oil has been cheap, so market is really liking it. Now the one thing you can see here that I put on my chart, I'm just trying to see if I like it or not. All right, now notice there's two bars here. The bar to the right is a daily. So now this is my hourly chart that I have on. I look at this all day. So now I have a daily bar and I have a 4-hour candle. So now on this 1-hour chart, I can always just see the daily bar. Now look at this bar, right? So we opened here overnight, pulled back, and it's just nice to see the sum, right, of the daily bar. It keeps you kind of in line too when you look at that daily bar. So we yeah, we're basically making a new swing high here. We just broke this swing high. Okay? So this market is officially all-time highs. Okay? Now the Nasdaq, let's look at our Nasdaq together because the Nasdaq has not even went to all-time highs yet. Nasdaq broke this yesterday's highs, overnight highs. Okay? Notice the daily bar and the 4-hour bar just like the same. And have a little countdown for the 4-hour bar. Okay? So we're in supply. Let's get rid of this supply. We are in a heavy supply zone. So if we come out of this, let's zoom out. There is futures. We got equal highs up here. Previous month's highs right up here. Now that probably, now you could, if you're in my community, I'll say stuff like the market wants this level. Now you have a thick supply zone here. We've tapped that multiple times. Okay? The key is, right, if you're a little bit of the smart money concepts in ICT, the key is here, right? This liquidity was buy side liquidity. This is basically yesterday's highs. Okay? We're not displacing through that right now, right? We hit supply, we hit the buy side liquidity. Right now, this is not displacing. Okay? So generally, that could be called a liquidity rate. And this is an hourly bar, but some liquidity swept there, probably some profit taking. This is still a bullish thing, right? Because now we have a new little trend form here. Now, who knows what happens, right? Because this is still yesterday's range, right? All of this is yesterday's range. Now, what's really important here, what I want to show you on the NASDAQ, this orange box is now, happens to be the 2-month VPOC, and happens to be the most traded price of the rolling year. So this price, 25876, is a monster. It is a monster, okay? The most, you heard me, the most traded price of the rolling year. So over the last year, that price is the most traded price. A lot of traffic there. Stay above that, yeah, NASDAQ is probably set to go higher, okay? Probably set to go higher. Does this become a new balance range? I don't know. Nobody knows. Okay? Nobody knows. Right? Because if you take that out, right? Displace, let's say we finally make a swing high up here somewhere, and then you make a swing low, which makes a higher low here, then we're starting a trend. Right? We're starting a trend in the NASDAQ. Okay? Let's go back to that ES. Here's our ES. ES is an all-time high. Now look, ES is displacing better through yesterday's highs, right? That buy side liquidity here, it's doing a better job. It doesn't have any overhead supply. It doesn't have any resistance. It doesn't have any supply zones. Okay, like the Nasdaq. Okay, we're over last week's highs. Who knows if this closes above yesterday's highs? We don't know. I don't know right now. Right? Look at that 4-hour bar. It's a nice one, right? The daily bar has a nice wick to it. So it looks pretty good from here. It looks pretty good. All right. Now, I want to switch over to the daily, or actually to yesterday's internals. All right, let that cook a little bit so we can get a little better analysis on that. Okay. What I want to concentrate now just on my internals, bread and butter. My bread and butter. Okay, so let's do internal recap here. All right, so yeah, this was yesterday. Now, this has not happened too many times recently. When you have XLK up 1.1, financials up, discretionary up, communications up, healthcare, industrials, staples. I haven't seen that in a little while. Okay. Now these Valdez weren't up that much. Now let me explain that. That's because where the market opened was underneath the prior day's close. Okay. So these numbers, that's the one thing about the Valdez and the ADD, the advanced declines. They're based on the prior day's close. So because we were so much lower when we opened, it kind of, those numbers, you really got to know what they are off the top, and that's why those numbers can't be held as most reliable, because if we're so far away from the prior day's close, they're not as great. When you're kind of like in the vicinity of the prior day's close, that's where it's really a good barometer. Okay, really a good barometer. But the advanced decline still good. Look at that though. S&P 500 -1. You know what that is? 250 stocks above prior day's close, 250 stocks below. Okay, but that was just a nice open. We just drove up. Now look at these internals. Never were weak. They never were weak. And I know when tech is driving, you buy those pullbacks. Okay, you buy those pullbacks. All right, I got in on this pullback. Right, I think I got in right around here. You can see it on my Discord. Right about here, I think. This is SPX, doesn't matter, but that's kind of where I got in. And then I rode it up to break. I rode that up to break the high a day, somewhere up here. Even though if I was really trading my personal account, I would have let it. I just let that target hit the prior higher day, the previous day high. Okay, so bullish internals. All pullbacks are buyable. Okay, notice anytime we consolidate it, pushed up, pulled back, got bought, right? Pulled back, got bought, pulled back, got bought. That's just what happens. All right, you got to recognize the pattern, recognize the edge with my internals. All right, switching over. Oh, this is interesting, folks. Look at these candles now. You're just not displacing. You're getting a liquidity sweep. Okay, both markets, they're not being able to displace right now. That's interesting. You're getting a lot of wick. Remember what I said about these numbers? I don't see why I'd be that bullish about these numbers, but that's what I always try to stress. Don't try to outsmart the market. You're going to lose. I can only go on what price is doing. I don't care about the numbers. I can have an opinion. Oh, wow, they're moving because of that. But if they move because of whatever reason, I have to then trade that price action. Not what I think, not what I want. That's the thing you really have to concentrate in trading. Okay? Like price tell you after the dust settles. Not your opinion. Because I can have a lot of opinions. Right? So, now, let's look over those dailies. All right, go to the daily chart. I wanted the dust to settle a little bit before we saw. So before we saw right here, all right, before we saw that CPI, I wanted to let that cook because, like I said, I don't know what this market's going to do. All right, now yesterday it's pretty bullish. Okay, opened here with no wick. That's called an open drive. And yeah, you took out the prior day's highs. You went right to last week's highs. Made new all-time highs. Not much to dive into there. Where are we now? 696. We are at basically yesterday's highs. Let's look at futures. Okay. Remember I talked about this sweep. That's why I'm more bullish of yesterday. And now look, made new all-time highs. Right? If everybody gets on board, right, this could move higher. I mean, I know in the past trying to fight all-time highs, that's kind of not a smart move. So unless something comes out of the blue today, um, this market's getting momentum, and all you need is XLK sector to start to break out of that consolidation. Okay, we'll get into that in a second. All right, so let's go to Qs. All right, let's look at Qs. Remember, this wedge was there. Now we're kind of two candles closed outside of that wedge. That's Friday's close right there, that little black line. We tapped into last week's highs. Almost went to last month's highs. Now look, all-time highs at 637. We are not there yet. Okay, all-time highs at 637. Where are we now? 628.26, 628.26. We are around yesterday's highs. This is bullish. Okay, let's look at futures now. Just in think or swim. Now look, we got a while to go, folks. Got a while to go, but this is like a resistance that's building up now. This resistance is building up. Next move is going to be up to this last month's highs. That would be your 26. Let's see here. It's called the 26130s. 26130s. Look how many equal highs are there. Woof. That's what I say in my room. That's what the market wants. If you continue to move, that's what the market wants. Okay? That last month's highs. Look at that in 26123, let's call it. It's right there. Last month's highs. There it is. All right? That's what I'm looking for. All right? Now, what else would I want to talk about? Let's go to the breath. Let's smell that breath of the markets. Okay? Breath of the markets. It's looking better. We went up to a 72. We dropped back down to a 69. That's still pretty good. 69% of the market is over their 50-day simple moving average. All right, that's pretty good. We were all middling for a while, and now the market's saying, hey, overall breadth is getting better. Now, as far as technology sector, it's been consolidating for a while since December 22nd. Look at that sideways movement in the XLK. Now, yesterday, you didn't break out of this, okay? Where are we now? We're at 147.02. We are right there in XLK. If we get the breakout, which would be around 147.38s, your next move would be to 149s. This would make the markets start to cook and start to go to all-time highs. Okay? So watch the XLK sector. Watch the XLK sector. It's 35% of the market cap weight in the S&P 500. It's very, very important to see what that is doing. If this was not consolidating, this market would be ripping and roaring. It would be relentless. Okay? Now, before I do show you guys anything else, let's look at the sectors now. All right? XLK was negative prior. It's now positive. Semis are now up 0.61. Nothing is a laggard besides financials. Okay? So, nobody knows what's going to happen. That hourly bar is still cooking. All right? We're going to look at it. All right? Let's look at it. Now, back to the hourlies. Okay? Now, look at this daily bar now. That's what I kind of do love about this now. I can just look at the daily bar. Got a wick, and what is that going to maybe turn into? A doji? Maybe. And the doji is just indecisive, right? That means the market's indecisive. Because like if you do look at the number is not like the CPI is not like, oh my God, inflation went down a ton, or let's say inflation went up, right? If it went up, then you could be like, ooh, we're getting cuts from the F1. So it, like I said, you just got to watch price action. All right. So let's just look at this. And like I said, there's not real, well, you got a little resistance here. You got a liquidity level up here. Now that would be the overnight high now. So let's get my marker out, right? Let's put up these 1 hours. This 1 hour little graphic here. And I mean, like I said, there's not, when you're at all-time highs, there's not a lot of resistance up there. There is none, except now the overnight high. That's all we have to go off of. Okay? So it makes it that, it's hard to short it. I'll be honest with you. All right? It makes it hard to short. So, what are we dealing with here? Okay? Let's look at it together. So, this is last month's highs. We are above last month's highs. We are accepting price above last month. We are right at last week's high. So 2 major levels right there, right? We just took out that swing high with this news. We took out yesterday's highs, okay? We're not, though, finding acceptance above this level. That is not the most bullish sign. Look at that wick. Look, this is going to be a doji in a daily, which is going to make not the best trading right off the bat. Okay? You got a doji. And it might not end to be a doji at the end of the day, but I don't know. Okay? So, what are we doing though? I want to make sure everybody understands. We just came from ultimate balance. Big moves happen from ultimate balance. Well, we got it. What did we do? Look at that poor structure. You have a symmetric move and took out all of that poor structure. Okay, I talked about this yesterday. Okay, now what are we doing? We are consolidating. We are accumulating. Now, can this be a liquidity sweep and a manipulation? And next thing you know, we could break these swing lows and take out this poor structure. I don't know. Okay, I don't know. You have a bullish fair value gap here, this yellow box. Okay, so right now, okay, this is what I would say. I would say we swept this liquidity, fueled the move higher, right? We took out that we took out that swing high. All right, so we did this. We put in a swing low, swing high, swing low, and we made, now it didn't displace, right? So it didn't, you need a candle closure up here to put that official swing high in, right? To put in a nice one. But right now, we're going back to this little accumulation here. All right. Now, for right now, what I could see happening, okay, here's our accumulation. That is a liquidity sweep, right? But what are we doing right now? We're trending up at all-time highs, okay? So, what do we have here? We have 2 swing lows. Now, any move for myself that dips the toe and we get something into this fair value gap, bullish fair value gap, I want to see how price reacts into this bullish fair value gap, okay? Because you do this 2 ways. This is not a great structure. It's one swift move. How do you gauge it? Well, I want to see if this is respected, like this. And then intraday on a 1 minute, right? I want to see if I can trigger in with my trigger chart to get long. Because if this is AMD or your Power 3, right? If you are just accumulating, right? Accumulating. Now, again, this could be manipulation here. But if that, let's say it closes here, but let's say we just start going in here and we do one of these, whoop, right? And everybody else might think, ooh, that's bearish, right? But then we put a closure back inside this range, right? I'm going to look to get long, all right? Because that's manipulation, and then you get distribution, and then we should melt up into all-time high Neverland. But who knows? I don't know, right? I only can, I am very confident intraday of what I likely will see, or my plan, right? Because it's always a if-then thing, okay? Now, moving on. NASDAQ is different. It is different because you have overhead supply, you have resistance, okay? And you got some big levels here. Big levels here, all right? So, now look, you're not displacing. You hit this large supply zone. Remember, a thicker border supply zone on my charts means it's at least a 6-hour supply zone. Those are stronger. Those are stronger. And look what we're doing. You got that doji daily candle right now. Obviously, this is not a closure of the daily, but look at that doji. That's a doji. Indecision. And also could be accumulation, right? Because now we're going back into the most traded price of the rolling week, into the most traded price of the rolling year. That is a big, warm, snuggly bed to get back into. Okay, you hit that overhead supply. You could not displace above this high, right? So right now, that's a liquidity raid, right? That's a liquidity raid. But we took out and closed above that swing high, right? And like I said, this can turn into one of these. And we might balance now. I don't know. But I will trade accordingly. Now again, we have the same thing. We got the doji in the daily right now. Look, that's a doji. You can't get any more doji than that, right? I don't even think I would ever have to say that before. So what are we doing? What are we doing? People are taking profits because those numbers, I don't think mean anything right now. All right, that's what the market's telling us. Oh yeah, that initial pop. That's how it goes, folks. Okay, so this is all I care about. What do we do in here? What do we do? We also have a nice bullish for value gap in here as well. You got poor structure. You got poor structure. You don't want to lose the orange box. So any kind of whoop, dip their toe in there, and oh boy, that's going to be a nice distribution leg. Okay, that will be nice. Now, what I would like is to get a discount here. Get in as a buyer somewhere here, where I know I can at least tap that high because that is a strong supply zone. Okay? So the market's making it difficult. Well, make it as difficult as you want it to be. Make it as difficult as you want it to be, right? Because now the market's saying, all right, we got the high, we got the low. Now we're like, we don't know what to do. Look where we're going. The most traded price of yesterday. That box, that hot pink box, I don't know if that's hot pink, but that box is yesterday's most traded price. It's going into that little bed. And look what the ES is doing. It also is going back to the most traded price of yesterday. That is not a surprise. Let's get into that warm, snuggly little bed. Okay? Always likes to go there. Those prices are magnets. That's why I have them on my charts. Look at the wick, the 4-hour candle. That's your 4-hour. This is your daily. It's a doji. All right? Again, right now, not the best chart that I want to see. I don't want to see doji and then, because what that means, right? What that means to me is indecision. And then that makes me go, well, I'm not indecisive. That makes me go, well, I guess I'm not going to have to do anything. Right? I might not have something to do. I might just not have something to do. Which, in trading, you want to have something to do. And that's where trading becomes hard because most of the time you're sitting back. It's like you're fishing. You're sitting back, you cast it. You might check your bait. Oh, Well, I need to put another worm or another piece of bait on there and throw it back out. You know, that's what trading is. It's waiting. And sometimes I don't like waiting, but too bad. Most successful traders out there go, you've made it when trading is boring. You've made it when trading is seriously boring, right? Because sometimes it's fun, exciting, but most times you just gotta wait. And sometimes, like yesterday, I did take a long yesterday. Now, am I short? I took a short yesterday, and I was happy with it. I knew I was trying to scalp lower, right? I did get excursion, and then it hit my break even because I was like, hey, now that I got my excursion, I'll go to break even. I'll be fine with a risk-free trade. It winded up working out a little bit, but I still wanted to go long overall. I jumped one long early, and I knew it was early, and then I got my setup that I was like, that is my A setup. I got it, and that's when I got long, and I had a positive day, right? So, but sometimes, you jump in, and then I'm like, and even when I jumped in that trade, I knew that's not your A. That's more of a B. The A is below that, and then it came, right? And that's the key difference, right? I had the confidence enough to trigger in again because I was like, that's what I wanted. And then that just took off. I never even took heat in that trade at all. Zero. I never went to my entry, which is always a good feeling. Okay? So let's look at the market profile, volume profile. I already gave you a lot possibly of scenario already. So I'm going to try to make this as brief as I can. All right, but I just love looking at the market like this. You got the overnight session, yesterday's session here. It just gives you a different perspective. Okay, I like both. All right, I like both. All right, so let's look at some levels. Well, of course, we got now a new all-time high in the overnight high. Now, just a little stat here: overnight highs are never secure as the all-time highs. We could pull back here, whatever, but we eventually make a real-time trading hour all-time high. Okay, so that's a stat for you. Now, price is right here. It's actually at the halfway point or the midpoint of this session, 50% retracement of this session. It's the midpoint of the overnights. A lot of trading volume here, right? Right, trading volume here. Okay. So there's not a ton of volume up in here. All right. So like I said though, that is a liquidity raid for right now. All right. So if I'm looking at anything, I'm going to look at the midpoint of yesterday, around 6997s, with the overnight low and the week to date anchor VWAP. That's confluence for you folks. And then I'm going to put a little box inside this bullish fair value gap. You got some single prints here. I want to see if we get a pullback here. That could be a bear trap to go long and hit this all-time high. Okay. All right. So this is, like I said, we'll just put a little box over these little single prints in the overnight highs. And I want to put something right here in this area. This would be the overnight VPOC, which is right there, 710. And you have last week's highs and the last most traded price of yesterday right here. So what I'm going to look at here. Okay. So let's get into scenarios. I'm just going to map this out very quickly for you guys. Let's break out this session here. This is only 30-minute bars. That's all it is. All right, so we're going to go with the long here. There's no overhead supply. There's no resistance overhead. All we have is an all-time high in the overnight session. Okay, all we have. All right, so we were gapping up. We're not anymore in yesterday's range. This is not a good excess at the highs here. Okay, now if you just looked at it as price action, we took care of this. But you generally in market profile, you don't do this until the real-time trading hours, but it did correct it here. Some may argue that, if you're a staunch market profile person, you're like, yeah, it doesn't matter that we just did it in overnights. I could see it both ways. So, all right, so if we're going to get into a long, I don't know if I put this up or not. I'm going to do it again if I didn't. All right, so longs. What do I want to see? Okay, now, most traded price of yesterday. Last week's highs, the close right here. So let's say we take off, right, and tap those I'm not chasing that. If we come back in, I'm going to be interested around here. Okay. One of these, higher lows, and then try to catch the move up into Never Never Land. Okay. Now, there's something in here if we do something that I don't know yet. Right? Like, I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know what the session's going to look like. Where I'll come up with a new plan from the session. But I don't have that right now. Okay? Now, the other one is the bear trap. So if the market tends to push, 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 take out the overnight low and the value area low from yesterday, and I want to see how it reacts to this bullish for value gap and these single prints. If we do this, come up, get a higher low, and I see that the market's not that weak, that's the long, folks. And you're going to target these overnight highs, which would make real-time trade hours all-time highs. Okay? Now, that's my plan for longs. Shorts. Okay? This is not easy. I'm not going to say it is. All-time highs are never easy to short. Momentum is on the bull side. Okay? But if we do something, right? I'm going to look at it like, okay, let's say we push through this. That will not be an easy short. All right? We'd have to do something like this. Come inside this bullish fair value gap, and we start finding acceptance in here. That most likely would make us go down to yesterday's lows and to ultimate balance, back into the warm snuggly bed of 69.60. If you take that out, that is no good. I don't know if that's in the cards right now. I honestly don't have a lot of short scenarios that I even want to entertain in my own brain, because I know that is foolish. It's a fool's errand to try to short all-time highs. Now, again, something comes out, President Trump says something that's not good, that's different. But that is it. I don't want to concentrate too much on shorts because I know it's a low quality trade. Now, if you're a scalper and you scalp ticks, ignore me. You have your own plan, but that's what I'm looking at. Now, NASDAQ. Let's look at it. Remember, orange box is the most traded price of the rolling year. Remember, I want to stay above that for the NASDAQ. We're above ultimate, the most traded price of the month. Okay? So everything looks pretty good for the NASDAQ. Now, overhead, let's pull this down. There is a gap, an open gap in that blue box above us. That is a target. Okay, that is a target. Remember, we have this supply. We came in, rejected. We have resistance at 26113. The start of the gap is 26150. You might want to write that down. Okay, you might want to write that down. Okay. Now, I don't know what some of these boxes up above are, because I don't think we had boxes. Let me look at this real quick. Make sure that because I have a different chart here. I want to make sure. Okay. So that is not all-time high. I am corrected. Okay, let's bring this down a little bit. This is what we're doing here. So that level that I said that the market wants, that 26115, that is last month's highs around. Okay, I believe that's what the market wants. There's a big supply zone there. Okay, then you have that gap. All-time highs is far away, folks. I didn't realize it was that far away. It's 26653. So we have a long way to go. Now, you do have some poor structure. Notice the vacuum, that divot in the profile. That's the gap. You could rip through that gap. Okay? So I just wanted to show you that before we get onto the scenarios in the NASDAQ. There is a lot of overhead supply in the NASDAQ. It has a lot of work to do. Okay? It has a lot of work to do. All right, so let's talk about a couple things in the NASDAQ here, and we'll go over some scenarios. Now, we do have a poor low. That is an equal low in 30-minute terms here, okay? That usually gets corrected. That might need to get corrected, and then we make the next leg higher. I don't know, okay? We came into this at least a 6-hour supply zone here. That is a strong supply zone. We came right in there and wicked. Not a surprise. We have our or gap that's unfilled above us. Remember, usually all gaps get filled. I don't know if that happens today. Okay, I don't know. All right. Now, obviously, we had a lot of volume down here, and you got this poor low. So right off the bat, I want to mark off this bullish fair value gap in the overnight lows. Happens to be a poor low. A lot of times that gets corrected. Okay, doesn't mean it has to, but that could be part of the bear trap scenario. All right. Now, midpoint of the session of the overnight, 259.46 and a half, right here. Most traded price of yesterday. The close. There's a lot of levels here. A lot of levels here. Okay. So then we have our most traded price of the week with a big demand zone down here. Let's just put that on the chart. Okay. Now let's look into our scenarios here. Okay. Let's see what we do. We're kind of holding here, but I don't know what we're going to do. All right. Let's get right into scenarios for your NASDAQ. Right now, semiconductors are up 0.5%. Technology is kind of flat. So we'll have to see. All right. Bullish. All right. Now, what do we do here? Right? Most traded price of the rolling here in that orange box. Remember, got to stay above that. Okay. Now, big supply zone up here. So I'd really like to get some kind of discount here. So let's say we push up, get into the supply zone again, maybe tap the overnight highs and pull back to the most traded price of yesterday and yesterday's close. Maybe even tap here, you get a higher low, and then you can go and start to go into this resistance level and try to go to the unfilled gap, 26150. End of that gap, let's say 2625 and change. That could be the target today. Okay, remember, this is an equal high right here. This 26120, I believe it is. Okay, that's probably the immediate liquidity level the market wants. Okay, now, if I'm getting my bear trap, okay, let the market pull back. Let the market take out this poor low and this in the overnight lows. Let it do it. Let it try to break through the most traded price of the rolling year, the orange box. Then we have our bullish fair value gap and the single prints from yesterday. If these are supportive, that is bullish. So let's say we come down here quickly and you do one of these, whoop, and you make a higher low. Well, this will be a manipulation leg, and we should distribute higher in co and tap the overnight highs, and then go for that resistance, the 26120s, and try to go higher and try to fill the gap. I don't know if we have that much juice in it, but that's definitely a player. The momentum is on bull side. Now, tech has to get out of its own way. Remember, it's consolidating the XLK sector, and it needs to break out. I don't know if that break happens today. I don't know. That's all I'm interested in. Remember, an intraday session plan will come about, always does, that I don't have right now because I don't know it. Short side. Short side. Okay? A little easier in the NASDAQ because we have overhead supply. There is resistance. Okay? So, again, am I in favor of it? I don't know. But it's more viable in the NASDAQ. Now, I tend to trade ES more. So, now look, here we go. What are we going to look for? Well, this supply is a heavy one. 6 hour, 8 hour, 12 hour. I don't know which one it is, but the thicker border is a stronger supply. So let's say we come into here and you touch this liquidity level and you wick. You can't displace. You get a lower high. And then I think we can assume we can roll back into range. That is decent. Okay? That I think is okay. Because if we go up to here, let's say early, I don't think the market will have much steam to be that strong. Okay. Again, I'm still leaning long. All right. Now, if we start to come down, break through the orange box and the poor low, and we start not honoring this this bullish fair value gap or the single prints from yesterday, and we're holding, I definitely think we can tag yesterday's lows, and we can go to the most traded price of the month, 257. Below that is, woof, I don't know if that's in the cards today. That's all I'm looking at today, folks. All right. Smash the like button if you enjoyed that. That would mean a lot to me. Okay. Now, if you want to join me and hear this every morning, you're going to subscribe, set an alert. I'll give you the market story, the market news, the economic calendar, the leaders and the laggards, and a bunch of technical analysis. Follow what I just showed you, the long and short trade scenarios in the NASDAQ and the ES futures. Okay. I try to give you just the raw deal in what my scenario. I'm not trying to give you. I used to give more scenarios, but now I'm like, why am I going to do that? I'm going to only give the ones that I believe in. Not that I didn't believe in them. I just tried to give more before, but now I just try to give you the optimum ones. Okay. So there's that. Now, if you want more in-depth coverage, you're going to join my Discord, Confluence Trading. Go to my YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. All right. I give really good in-depth intraday commentary. Golden nuggets, the story. What should we expect from the market? Okay, along with what I'm looking at the trade. Okay, but I think the most valuable thing is how I look at the market. I don't let price action fool me. I'll have my internals. Okay, market can't outperform the internals. If the market's pushing at highs and I'm like, wow, these internals are not strong, that is a red flag. It cannot outperform the internals. I can't state that enough. Okay? So, come join me. Also, you have my free indicator, the expected move of the week. I run it via Python every Monday morning. It's very, very good edge just with that alone. Okay? Now, that's it for me, folks. So, if I don't see you in my Discord, I will see you guys tomorrow morning. All right? Tomorrow, remember, SCOTUS with the tariffs tomorrow. Let's see what they say. Okay, that should be a market mover as well. All right, take it easy.